Well, holy cow, everybody, I am back after a month being on hiatus, and it was a long month. There was like 5 Wednesdays in there, so it seemed like forever. So I apologize for that, sort of, kind of, not really, because there was so much stuff going on that I had to just kind of take a break and gather myself. So you are listening to That Dog Training Show with Tanya Yarbrough, which is me. That's me. Anyway, and this is where we talk about the dogs we love and the stupid human behaviors we don't, also known as shubs. And just to announce real quick so we know what the hell we're talking about today, today's show topic is called Finding That Happy Place. So, anyway, I hope things have been good for you this summer. It's been super busy with me. It's, July is a month where all of you all go out on vacations and stuff like that, so I end up taking care of your dogs. So I had like up to 7 dogs in my residence at one time, 3 of them puppies, a lot of peeing, a lot of, yipping and whining and stuff. It was really exciting. Anyway, there's a lot of other things going on in terms of this podcast and media outlets for, getting that message out there that, this is how you be a real dog person, not some crazy person who goes, oh my God, it's so cute, I love you, and then you touch everybody's dog like an idiot. So, anyway, there's been a lot of new visitors to the That Dog Training Show with Tanya Yarbrough Facebook page, so welcome to that. And if you haven't joined up, just go over there and like that page, That Dog Training Show with Tanya Yarbrough. It comes up pretty quickly. And you can follow me on Instagram at That Dog Training Show or on Twitter at Kazzy Dog Train, TrainKazzi Dog Train, TRAIN. So those are all the places you can hit me up. And if you ever have questions or ideas for shows, I am always searching for new ones. And even if it's something we've touched on before, maybe you can give me a new perspective that you want me to focus on. So I'd be glad to hear from you on the Facebook page. Just message me or post it, and I will be glad to respond and see what we can do. So anyway, the things I want to announce coming up, some seminars. My Pack Leadership 101 seminar, that's every 3rd Sunday of the month at Blue Collar Working Dog, and that's in Echo Park. The address is 1328 Glendale Boulevard. Lakeshore Avenue. It's right off of Glendale Boulevard, and the zip is 90026. So for those of you that this is local, there's still some space to sign up. So it's coming up in a couple weekends, yes. And then there is another seminar that's set up for September, the week before my usual seminar, and it's kind of cool. It's on the craft and science of scent work. So it'll be, I understand, by someone who does the scent work for the police. So it'll be really intense and interesting. So you can sign up for that too. Look for everything on bluecollarworkingdog.com. Classes that are coming up with me, group classes. I have basic obedience and street obedience and master distraction classes coming up on the weekend of August 22nd and 23rd. So go ahead and look on the website for bluecollarworkingdog.com and you will find that information there. So, okay, back to our actual topic, finding that happy place. Now, I was inspired to come up with this topic and talk about it because some of you know I have a dog named Rambo who's about 4 years old, who is a piece of work. He's a little rat terrier Chihuahua mix, and he's wasn't socialized properly, and he suffered from distempers, and he survived, but he's neurologically damaged, and also in terms of nurture, he's damaged as well. In other words, every little noise in the regular household noises scared him to the point of peeing on himself and running away. So I had a lot of work to do with him to keep him, get him somewhere in a normal space. And he came into my life when he was about 14 months old. So it's been a long road, and it still continues to be a long road. Rambo loves people, but he cannot stand the approach. When people try to approach him, when they look at him and make noises or reach for him, it freaks him out. And he wants to be everybody's best friend. I mean, he's kind of a little bit, once he gets to know you, he kind of won't stop, bothering you. But it's the approach thing that's really, really a problem. So I was over at a colleague's home working on some stuff and brought Rambo with me. Just to kind of give him an opportunity to socialize and all that stuff. And it took him a while to warm up to some people, but he didn't really fully, let them approach or pet or anything like that. And I brought really good treats and all that stuff. And to be honest, Rambo's not that food motivated. I had to train him to be food motivated at all. So this is in of itself, him taking treats from several people was a huge accomplishment in and of itself. No one would know that looking at him, that I had to teach him how to want food from people, but he wasn't willing to stick with somebody else while we were trying to work on something where I couldn't be around him. So it was interesting that we found out when one lady sat down at an office chair, he suddenly approached her, and upon her tapping her leg, he jumped up in her lap and all of a sudden was as if they've known each other all their lives. He was all over her, licking her, rubbing up against her, completely relaxed, exactly happy, da-da-da. And I was like, that's really interesting, because that's where Rambo is the most comfortable when I'm at home working on the computer. He becomes very affectionate and waits for, he now waits for permission to be in my lap in the chair. So now here's a stranger whom he would not approach earlier, not even with treats really. He all of a sudden is in their lap and all over them. So I thought this was really, really interesting. So we tried it with another person that he wouldn't come near at all, not even take treats from. And she sat down in that chair, and lo and behold, there's Rambo jumping up in her lap, and they're the best buddies ever. And it was just kind of interesting that black office chair is that sort of, it's not even my black office chair, but it's not the exact same, brand or anything, but he just sort of transferred that. This is my happy place. This is my safe place. This is where I go. And it didn't matter who sat in the chair. He was best buddies with anybody who sat in that black office chair. So this reminds me of something that I guess I should have known that I could have used a black office chair, but even so, I really don't feel like, dragging a black office chair everywhere we go to make sure he feels okay. So that's kind of a pain in the butt. But what this does is gives me some clues, like when people come over to my place or we go over to somebody else's place where there's a black office chair, we could get him socialized with everybody, and all of a sudden he's very relaxed in his environment, even outside of that chair in the same area, so in the same home. So I think for you guys who are looking to find ways to get your dog over some sort of distraction, or especially a phobia, some fear, you need to find that happy place for your dog. And it can be done in several ways. And it starts off, always though, at home. It starts off where they are most comfortable. So outside of an office chair, which is very clumsy, a lot of times a mat is used to actually create a place, a safe place for a dog. So you use a mat, like a bathroom mat or something like that, and then you lure the dog onto the mat and get them to lay down on it, and you give them food for it, and then release them, and then move the mat around the house, and they go back on the mat, and eventually they just run to the mat and lay down and wait for you to give them a treat. This is a way to create a place or safety zone for the actual transferring of that information or that sensation of relaxation and happiness and safety to other places. So once it's nice and solid in the home, you can take that mat to other locations and have your dog just relearn the game, which doesn't take them much. They just automatically associate safety and relaxation with that mat. And so some of that association will help them carry through the distraction or the phobia. So you can use something, I've used the bed for Rambo before, for creating that safe place. The other thing that's really important is using that down position oftentimes if you're using a bed or a mat, because that down position is actually a very submissive, calming position for the dog, and so that sort of helps them feel a little safer. For Rambo, I even taught him to do head down, so he had to have his head completely down as well, and that helped him a lot for things like going to the Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf out on Wilshire in Vermont in Koreatown, where it's super busy, and he would sit in a chair on his little mat and do a head down. And once I started teaching the head down and he was not allowed to look around and freak out looking around at everything, he was actually much better. It was a lot faster for him in terms of calming down and relaxing, and he'd eventually just fall asleep with all the noise around him, which is, for Rambo especially, extremely exciting for a trainer, because that's where we want to go. We want the dogs to feel comfortable doing that. If you want to travel with your dog, or just go to a local cafe with your dog without having issues of, panic or anxiety, this is the kind of stuff you've got to do. And having sort of what I used was Rambo's crate mat, so he was comfortable in his crate, and just his little pad that went in the crate. I would take it with me when we traveled to different locations and teach him to just lay down on it just for a few seconds sometimes, and then move on. So those are some of the things that you want to do. Of course, I have a small dog, so bringing his crate mat was really easy. If you have a big dog, just get a bathroom mat or a yoga mat or something and roll it up. But anyway, so this is kind of a really cool tool that I know how to use. I've been using and I teach it in master distraction classes in that class, group class over at Blue Collar Working Dog, is that we use a mark and stuff to do that. And I'll talk about that in a second. I use a version of the place, which is that mat concept, by teaching a dog to want to lie on that particular mat or go do it down. I call it park it when I'm teaching it for service dogs. And it's because I build the behavior to always then, after they learn to go on that mat, go under a chair, under a bench, a table, tucked in as much as possible. I use this behavior for the service dogs and people who want to travel with their dogs and take them to dog-friendly places. This is a super cool and important behavior you got to teach your dog. So these pet dogs, even though some of these are not service dogs, they're just pet dogs, still have to learn not to block public access ways. So teaching them to park it under surfaces is a hugely useful tool. And in fact, in California, it is now legal for restaurants, because before it was actually illegal, but I believe it was this year, January 1st, that it was legal to actually for the restaurants to allow dogs on the patios as long as there was an outdoor access, and as long as the dogs were non-aggressive and didn't go on a bench but went under the bench or was out of the public access ways. So in a lot of ways, you're allowed to have your dog there if the restaurant owners or the policy accepts them, but you kind of have to have almost the same standards of a service dog, where they're supposed to be completely non-aggressive, non-reactive, and not blocking any public access ways. So teaching your dog to go under tables and chairs and all that stuff and under your feet is a super important tool if you want to start going out places with your dog. So in this case, with when I call park it, now eventually you get rid of the mat and you just send them on, just point in a direction and they'll go under something, they'll find something. And what's interesting, I created this as a happy place starting off with a mat, and then I paired it with going under objects, under surfaces. All I'm doing is now pairing it with the creating our natural den instinct. So we're now giving it a direction. So we've approached it in several ways. So hopefully your dog is crate trained, because they should be. And that we use those natural instincts of that's a safe zone for them. So now we're kind of doubling up on that happy place and that association. And bam, you've got a dog who's can't wait to go under the bench and wait for you to come back with your food or whatever. So it's a really, really cool tool. I use it also I use Park It for sit when it comes to service dogs for following grocery carts and stuff like that. But that's something you don't need to know how to do if you're just using a pet dog. But anyway, when it comes to that happy place, it's really, really important to start creating, find things that make your dog comfortable, things that your dog can associate in a safe environment, starting at home, using food, using praise, and all that. Now, I mentioned the mark earlier. The mark in production work for dogs is just like for actors, that they need that one little spot they have to stand on to actually be lit and framed properly, and from that point is the pivot point or the launching point for all the other behaviors, whether it's in that place or it's to move to another mark to do behavior elsewhere. So the mark is something I use specifically in Master Distraction class so that the dogs feel safe. Now, in that situation, we always train it for them standing first, because we want them